Excuse me. Alright, so I've just separated this section here, which will become the back doors. I've just separated by section. I'm just going to apply the array modifier, not the array modifier, the mirror modifier, get round to the back. And so this is a separate object, and I just need to be able to add a couple of loop cuts and that sort of stuff. So Control R for a loop cut. All I'm going to do is basically just rake in the doors, not the doors, the windows. Edge select, slide, get it in position. That should, I can't even see what I'm looking at the moment. Tab, no, it's too low. So I need to bring these up. So grab that bottom bit, bring it up to where I want the doors to sit. That seems about right. And a couple of loop cuts vertically, and I removed the array modifier too soon, so I'll put it back in and delete half the mesh. X verts, and we've got a local mode. That's perfect. Alright, so ring cuts vertically, door number 1, ring cut, door number 2. Or side 2. Alright, and I probably should put in little holes for this thing. So what I'm doing in this case is really focusing in on the shape setup of this door. Actually, just grab that set and slide it on up. Because this is a separate mesh, it doesn't need to join up all nice. And this is where you sort of start to break things down and that sort of stuff to make things more interesting. So again, a ring cut vertically, about where the window starts to curve. And again on this side, edge slide just because it doesn't quite look right. I mean, it might be possible that you just take this entire mirror window section and just pop it out. So it's no longer part of this mesh, but it becomes a separate mesh. So that looks about right, eyeballing it, yeah. So, and then we've got this little door thing. Well, I'm actually just going to cheat. Is it? Yeah. I suppose I could add additional topology, but how good does it realistically need to be? Really comes down to what your planned use is for this model. So I've created the surface, and now I'm just going to have to start implying what's going on inside. So I'm going to pop that in, I'm going to pop in these things, but I need to make this topology a little more complicated before I do. Alright, so I want to get a curve happening in there, which probably means that either I add a series of ring cuts to make that more interesting, like this, and all I'm doing is taking the default setup for the ring cut so it sits roughly in the middle, and then just to start adjusting, moving these vertices. In fact, this entire middle section can probably just go, and we'll just face it and pop it in. So X verts. So what I need to do is basically bring this to form a rough curve. So I'm just going to eyeball it, just and there's probably nicer ways of doing this. But, you know, they don't spring to mind at the moment. And the topology for this thing, the vertexes, the shapes, all that kind of stuff, doesn't need to be perfect. And I'll get back and replace the window in a few moments. So I'm just trying to imagine a curve going along here and then sinking down to there. I'm just trying to get the spacing and that sort of thing right, so that roughly things sort of seem right. And this is really just, you know, I could spend all day sliding these vertices back and forth, trying to get a decent shape happening. And there's undoubtedly available tools to do this. Not perfect, but it'll do. Alright, so I face this, and what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go into single mode. Before I do, I want to select the other part of this thing. So these are the two areas I'm just going to pop in. One to make it look like a window, and the other to make it look like the door handles. So go in my side view, extrude it back, and that should do, because that will cover the window. And of course this particular window I'm just going to tint. This thing has a door handle in it, so I'm just going to grab Y direction, just pop it back a little further, because that way it should create the space for a handle. And you know, when modeling this stuff, it doesn't have to be perfect, it just needs to give the appropriate impression. Now, because I'm not planning on having this capable of opening a door, but I do need a center gap down here, I can either, I'll turn off clipping, and get that last little bit, grab X direction, just break it there. In fact, if I get close enough, just make it so it almost touches. Alright, so that's now the door. If I select the outer edges, that's the whole shebang. Look from side on, and now I've got to make this door cavity work. So, extruding back again in the Y direction, I want to make it so it's bigger than the handle. And then I probably actually need to mirror it. Okay. I want to mirror along there, so what am I doing wrong? Oh wait, it'll be all the way back here, so if I turn it on, there's the other door. Oh, whoops. Okay, so I need to remove that origin point, so I'm just going to select those two vertices. That seems as good a point as any. Snap cursor to selected. Probably want to make that a little smaller actually. So, grab Y direction, slide that handle a little further in so it doesn't go all the way, and then try and grab that outer edge. Perfect. And slide that in a little, grab just the Y direction so I don't mash the shape of it a little. Now I'm going to snap my cursor to that point there so it sits roughly in that door, and then out of, escape, tab into object mode, I set the origin to my 3D cursor, and I now have a door. I've mashed the door because I put the cursor in the wrong spot. Alright, so if I go into, I think it's here, that looks about right. So I snap it to there. Oh, I need to push it a little further actually. So, and this is X. X is a really, really tiny number. Let's just set that to 0. Pushes my 3D cursor a little further over, gives me a little bit more space to work with, and allows me to keep the gap between the doors. And if I go into look dev mode, you can see it just in there. So that's kind of perfect. One topology replicated 3 times. And if I apply this modifier, I get a bunch of doors, which allows me to go into the inside, modify the insides, and modify the outside. So I'm just saving time on my modeling. And that's probably all I need to do for the doors. I might want to add some little corners just to soften those edges. So before I apply that, I'm going to apply a bevel modifier just to take that corner off, and then roll it so that it's got, and it's rolling, where's the number? Usually appears down there, either the bottom. Oh, where'd they put it? It's got to be here somewhere. Anyhow, that doesn't matter. 1, 2, segments right down the bottom there, so it appears just over here, but it will only appear when I start activating the bevel modifier. and because I can't move the mouse off this window, it's a problem. Alright, segments. I want about 4 segments, maybe 3. Okay, and 0.001. So if I type that in, 0.003, sorry. 001? No, I need an extra 0 there. 1, 3, 2, 5. That's enough. The reason I'm finding out this number is that when I bevel it, I can make it match 4 segments at 0.005. 0.05. Yep, 0.005. Right, and that's just there to take the corners off these doors, make them a little softer. So Control B for the bevel, push it up to 4 segments, and 0.005. Alright, and that's all that does. May want to do the same for this. I could have done it as well for the windows. It would give me better topology, but it wouldn't be quads, which is the only hassle. So doing that in here, Control B. 004, 5. Whoa! 05. Yep. Now that does break this topology a little bit, which is going to make it a pain. But we'll see how it goes. Because in there's not a quad, but they're quads. That's almost a quad. But it does give a nicer look to the actual door. Then we apply the modifier. Oh, can only apply it in. Okay, body, rear door. So that's the main rear door. Apply the modifier. We now have consistent topology on all 3 sides, and we can then start modifying things that way. So this bit, these internal handles, kind of less relevant. So wireframe mode to look through things, and then from the side, grab, slide it off so it's pretty much there. And I'll just tuck it a little bit in, put some sort of handle there or something. So usually it's a rotating handle where you grab it horizontally and twist it so it's vertical, but that gives me the basic setup for my doors. So I've extended into the frame of this vehicle body, but the door is done. So I'm going to cut that there. I'm going to go through and model the other doors basically the same way, but modeling this one, which is the more complicated door, should give you the ideas to do the rest. And we'll get back to this in a little while.